Greetings, friends. The call is upon me, and I know it is upon you. Thanks for joining me. I'd like to offer some practical information for everyone out there. This has been the most powerful lesson in my life. If you've listened to my previous videos, you might have gleaned from some of the information that I've said that this has been a large portion of my experience, that I felt powerless to change. And I want to share with you today how you can take your power back. It starts with the explanation of the Karpman drama triangle, also which has become known as the dreaded drama triangle. For any of you that have been involved in a drama triangle, you know exactly why it's called the dreaded drama triangle. Have you ever felt sick to your stomach to go into work? Have you ever felt sick to your stomach to see family or maybe certain friends? Or maybe you felt sick to your stomach just going out into a public area? I invite you to strongly consider that you are feeling the effects of the drama triangle. Now, the drama triangle is something that we all experience. We all experience. I don't think there's a place that you can go on earth today where you may not feel some of the effects, at least a little bit. With some people, they have struggled their whole lives to get out of this. That's been my story. I've only recently been able to get out of this, and it was so powerful. That's how I started to realize exactly how far this triangle really goes. That's why I'm sharing it with you. So, let's talk a little bit about the drama triangle. The drama triangle itself was developed in the late 60s, early 70s, and it's based on the theory of transactional analysis. Transactional analysis is a way of thinking of relationships, human relationships, that basically we are giving maybe what someone else needs, and we are also getting what we need. That the basis of a relationship is give and take, and that both parties come together because they are able to give something, and even in giving, maybe we're getting something that we need, or we're taking from someone and we're getting something that we need, for better or worse. So I'm just explaining the basics of transactional analysis as simply as we can view them. The drama triangle is based on this, but it shows the dynamic of conflict of transactional analysis. So if we actually look around our world, we see massive amounts of conflict everywhere. And anywhere you see conflict, you're going to be able to boil it down or reduce it to the drama triangle. Now, Dr. Karpman identified 3 roles, at least, the basics of what's going to be involved in this dynamic. We've got persecutor, victim, and rescuer. The persecutor obviously is going to be persecuting another party, which would be seen as the victim. This would be the beginning of it, really. It's always going to start here. And if we have these 2 points in our transactional analysis, it would look a lot like a ping pong match, let's say, or a ping pong game, because we're going to have the events or the interactions between these 2 parties of going back and forth, back and forth. Now, depending on how severe this is, we might get the appearance of a third party, a rescuer. The rescuer comes in, they see that maybe the victim needs help, maybe they see more so that the persecutor is something that they don't like. Either way, they become involved in it, and now instead of having a back and forth kind of dynamic or movement in the scenario, we get it going around. Now, if we picture it more like a circle, we see how everything turns and turns and turns, and it ends up being like a big hamster wheel that everybody is just running around on, not realizing it. Now, I've been embroiled in so many of these, and very, very severely. If you've watched my other videos, you might have gleaned from some of them that this has certainly been my story. So I know exactly what it feels like to be in the situation and to have massive amounts of energy around me, the energy of the transaction or dynamic itself. And it almost acts like a tsunami where it can sweep you away, or maybe like a whirlpool where it just sucks you in and you can't get out. I've definitely experienced that most of my life. In fact, these roles of persecutor, victim, and rescuer sometimes exist long before we even come into the world. And then when we come into the world, we are brought into it, an existing triangle that was there long before us. As we grow, we learn to accept this as normal, and we think that this is our frame of life. This is the frame of reference for life that we should have. That was my story. This is how I learned to become a victim. Now, there's no fault and there's no blame here, because whenever we become embroiled in a triangle that's already existing, we need to realize that the triangle probably existed before these parties too. And if we want to look at history itself, we could see it as one big transactional analysis triangle that's just been going on and on and on. So it's our responsibility to see it for what it is, and it's our responsibility to turn it around, and that's exactly what we can do. There is an antidote to the drama triangle, and I'd like to go over those roles. When I found the drama triangle, I was like, that's neat, and I really thought that it was kind of cool, but it didn't really spark or ignite a flame within me until more recently, when I actually realized that my entire life was stuck because of these drama triangles. Not just one, many. And that everybody else was stuck because of these drama triangles too. So when I started looking at the antidote, which is the empowerment triangle, I realized a couple of years ago that I had kind of started to use some of these antidotes on my own, and I didn't even understand what I was doing or why, but I just kind of felt this energy coming out, and then I realized, I was like, well, that situation went better. That situation definitely went better than what I expected. And I certainly found that I was able to take my power back. It was very, very, it was a great feeling that I got. It was very empowering. And when I found this online, it just blew me away to realize that here it's so simple. It's such a simple answer. And then when we go out into the world, we become involved in these situations that seem very, very complex, because we've given all kinds of different labels to things, we've given all kinds of different explanations to things, when really it can always be boiled down to these three elements. And what do you know, if we look at it from a larger perspective, we see there's another side to the coin if we just flip it over. So, the empowerment triangle also has three roles. Each role is an antidote to the previous from the drama triangle. Let's go over them. They are challenger, creator, and coach. When we feel victimized, we feel like we are powerless and we have no ability to stand up for ourselves, or maybe for a group, that we can't do anything, and that life is happening to us, not for us, or that some situation is happening to us. We might even look at another party involved in the triangle and blame them. And we might even say, you're doing this to me. Now, oftentimes, if we look at these other perspectives in the same triangle, we're going to find that the other person, so in this case, the persecutor, they will often say, I'm not doing it to you. And often they actually blame the victim for their anger. There's also a third party, the rescuer. When they see what's going on between these two parties, they might even jump in to get involved in it. And we know with triangulation, when it's only two people, it's he said versus she said, or you versus me, or, A versus B, whatever. So when we bring a third person into the situation, we're hoping to break the stalemate. And we're hoping that this third person will agree with one of the two sides, and then because the two outweigh the one, that must be the right answer, right? Definitely not. Because of bias and paradigm, because we're not looking at the full situation. The empowerment triangle really offers a much better solution to dealing with the transaction, the dynamic, the situation. It also offers a better picture of what a truer answer would look like, because there's never just one answer. That's what I've found in my experience. There's always multiple routes to the same end, and I've also found that all roads lead back to the same road anyway. So let's look further at the empowerment triangle. Instead of being a persecutor, and then making someone feel like a victim, if we are aware that this is going on, we can instead be a challenger. So instead of saying to someone, being angry at them or attacking them when we perceive them to be wrong or doing something wrong, thereby trying to victimize them. And I know that we aren't trying to victimize them, because we might actually see them as being more powerful. So we may not see that what we are doing is trying to victimize someone. We might actually feel like the victim ourselves. What we can do is we become a challenger. So we could say, instead of "you're wrong," "have you considered?" There's very simple ways that we can change our approach, change the angle that we're coming from in order to stay powerful. That's right. People will actually become a persecutor because they want to feel more powerful. And if you look at the position of the drama triangle, we will see that being a persecutor is a one-up position. Technically, being a victim is the lowest power position that we can have. But it doesn't mean that we're powerless and that we have to stay there. We can absolutely turn it around and become a creator. A victim feels like they have no power and they have no choice in what is happening to them. And that's simply not true, especially when we understand that a persecutor is only doing what they do because they feel powerless too. If they didn't feel powerless, they wouldn't be in the triangle at all. That's the thing. Anyone that's in the drama triangle already feels less powerful, which means all of them technically are kind of having the same thing happen. They're just playing a slightly different role in it. And it's up to us to recognize it and to get out. So instead of being a persecutor, we can be a challenger, and we can challenge the other party to see maybe a little bit more than what they currently do, or to change something, or to be less rigid, to be more open. Whatever it is that you need to do, that's how we can do it. It's much more productive. And instead of being creating the whole situation to be powerless, we now create a dynamic, or we create a situation with a certain kind of energy in it that all roles can benefit from. It really is more of a win-win scenario for everybody. So it's in everybody's interest to understand, not only so that they're not a victim, but then even the other party that wants to victimize them, we can all solve this and we can make this much better for everybody. So instead of persecutor, we become a challenger. Instead of being a victim, we become a creator. Instead of seeing that we don't have any options or choices, we make options and choices. Even when we think that we are the lowest we can ever be, all we have to do is step out of that role, turn it around and say, you know what? I'm not powerless. I already have power. When I feel like a victim, or if I feel sorry for myself at all, it will automatically reduce your power, and it will automatically start dragging you down into this drama triangle. So even if there's no drama transaction that's going on between you and other parties, just by feeling like this yourself, you're actually opening the door for all of this to come in. And then because we also switch roles, when I feel sorry for myself in one regard, it lowers my power, and then I could actually start snapping at someone. That's becoming a persecutor. Or maybe I feel sorry for myself, and there's a little bit of self-pity there, and then maybe I recognize what's going on in someone else's life and I become a rescuer to them. There's nothing inherently wrong with helping people. We want to help people. But the whole point here is recognizing that we are not the only ones that can be involved in drama triangles. And if you look at the world around us, I'm pretty sure you would agree there's a lot of drama triangles going on, some bigger than others. People do need help. So there's nothing wrong with helping people, but we don't want to cripple them either. By constantly rescuing someone or by constantly trying to save someone, we prevent them from flipping the triangle around that they're in, and they may never step into their power. As a rescuer, we might even feel powerful. It might make us feel better. If you look at the position in the dynamic, a rescuer is also a one-up position. So someone who feels powerless might actually feel more powerful by rescuing someone else. But it's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation for everybody involved is the empowerment triangle, by flipping it around and by now becoming a coach instead of a rescuer. When you think about a coach, they're not someone that's going to run the race for their athlete. No, they're going to tell their athlete what they're doing right and maybe where they need improvement. And they're going to coach this person to a better place, to run the race faster, to do things differently, to do whatever it is that they need to do to be successful. The coach is there on the sideline, cheering them on, looking at their athlete or performer, whatever, do the best that they can. These are the ideal situations and roles to the situations that we really want to create in our world. Now, I didn't realize that when I was born into a role, that it was a role in one of these triangles. I didn't know that I carried with me energy that was laid down from generations before. I really did not. Now that I do, I recognize how important this was for me to overcome and how important it could be for you to overcome too. This is not the only thing that I have to say about this. There's more information that I love to look into. Of course, I love culture and I love sociology. I love psychology. In fact, I was studying for years to become a psychologist. So from my own experience of being born into this drama triangle, I learned how to be a victim. I became further victimized, etc. I spent many, many years in pain and suffering, and I tried many different tricks to get out of it. But it always came back to me. It always came back to me, and it seemed to follow me no matter where I was in life. Until I realized it was a triangle. It was this whole thing that I was enmeshed in and that I could easily get out. As soon as I figured that out, that's when my entire life changed. Everything changed. This is why I don't have the bad days that I used to have. This is why I don't feel the pain that I used to have. Because when I recognize when I'm in pain, it probably means that something like this is going on. And I know in order to feel better, I need to take my power back. So I look at the situation I'm in, I flip it around, and I become a challenger, a coach, or a creator. And it's okay to switch between these roles. In fact, this is what we need to do. Now, one of the things I've really come to learn is that metaphysics is real. That's the best way for me to say it. Of course we know physics is real. We experience it. We drop the apple just like Sir Isaac did and we see exactly what he saw. Or perhaps we're more into the Einstein theories of relativity. We are able to see some of these things that go on, and we know this is part of physics. What I didn't know is that metaphysics has more to do with the unseen energy part of this. And I know to many people out there, it seems very woo-woo, it seems very new age, and it just simply seems fake. I'm coming more from an academic and an empirically observable driven data set than what metaphysics could offer, at least at first glance. But it is my experience that it is absolutely real, and that when I started opening my eyes to these things, especially once I got out of the drama triangle and I stepped into the empowerment triangle, it opened my worldview, and that's when I really started seeing the signs all around me to indicate what was really going on. For those of us that are already familiar with metaphysics, and for some mysticism, because they do tend to go hand in hand, although metaphysics I feel is more of a modern way to describe the same phenomenon that we've always been experiencing. It's all really the same thing. We give it different labels because we see it from different perspectives. That's all it is. And of course, time changes, language changes, understanding changes. But if we look at one of the age-old symbols, the triangle, that's been around for a really long time. We can also look at the Merkaba. The Merkaba is an ancient symbol that represents many things, but if we want to reduce its meaning, we could basically say that it is our energy. It is the energy or the vehicle of energy that we are. It's a representation of what our spirit could look like, let's say, some might think, or the involvement in the rest of the universe that we may not actually see, the ether that some of us refer to it as. The Merkaba is made of two tetrahedrons, or pyramids would be a simpler way to look at this. One of them is upright and one of them is inversed. Together, overlaid, they create the Merkaba, which kind of looks like a star. And there's different points and there's different things that it does. But at the end of the day, it basically acts like an engine. As it turns around, it creates movement, just like these other triangles. But instead of being separate triangles, of course, it's together. We could look at this like the yin and the yang of the universe. There's always at least two energies or two concepts, light and dark, this and that. Of course, there's more to it than just that, but this is the polarization or the dynamic of what matter, energy, everything is. So I'd like to point this out, that over and over and over, these are iterations of the same thing that appear in our lives, appear in us, appear in others, appear in our world. And if we start looking at them as a reflection or an iteration of something else, this is how we are also able to reduce the things that seem very complex and complicated. We find that they're really not that complex or complicated at all. That there are similar themes and similar relationships between everything. This way, no matter where we are, and no matter how new something appears to us, we won't be so intimidated by it. We can take comfort from the fact that, well, if I understand this, then maybe I understand that too. So, whether you're into metaphysics or not, whether you're into the construct of time and everything else or not, that is unimportant to me. What's really important to me is that when I reduce everything, even though I may be searching for the great answers that the universe has for us out there, this is what I reduce it to. And I know that we're all in this together. And when I look at my life and I understand the pain and suffering that I've gone through, the hardship that I've gone through, and when I say it didn't have to be like that, this is exactly what I mean. I'm talking about taking a situation that looks impossible, looks absolutely horrific, and that, I didn't think I was going to survive. I really didn't. Many times. And not only did I survive, I'm even better for it because I was able to see the way out. And I assure you, no matter what situation you find yourself in, there are solutions out there for you. Do not feel powerless. Do not remain powerless. Have faith that there is a way that you can take your power back. And if you ever feel overrun by the world, overrun by a group, a person, a situation, it doesn't matter. Understand that they too are playing a role and that they were probably embroiled in something before they even had a choice. Many of us are not walking through this world consciously. Many of us are subconsciously playing these roles out. And the more that we awake to what's going on in our own lives, the more that we can share and impact others and help them turn their triangles around too. This is exactly what we need to do to unite. Let's remember that really all of us want the same thing deep down. We want to be loved and we want to love. Everything else are details on how to get that. So instead of persecuting each other, let's challenge each other. Instead of rescuing each other, let's coach each other. And instead of being victims, let's step into our power and become ultimate creators of a beautiful life for us all. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope that this information finds you well. Take care until next time.